Welcome. My name is Cynthia Orsini-Dahl, and I am your host for VETS Get on the Grid. The VETS Get on the Grid is a series of conversations highlighting veteran entrepreneurs and their companies. This series airs live on on4v.tv. Handshakes, not handouts. Chief Warrant Officer for Albert R. Renteria's site for empowering veterans and entrepreneurs via the ARC, which is his organization. My father, Staff Sergeant Ed Brown, saw active duty in the Korean War, and while in the service in the 1st Marine Tank Division, he was also a fiercely competitive leatherneck playing both offensive and defensive linemen on the gridiron for the proud and the few. He came home to go to school at the University of Arizona playing football, and instead of answering the draft to play ball for the Cleveland Browns, he spent another year getting his master's in education and becoming a high school teacher and head coach for football and track and field. He helped his kids and the kids he taught for more than 30 years understand what he learned in the Marine Corps, the meaning of integrity, dedication, discipline, and what staying tough and true to yourself meant. And we all knew it. And as he said, once a Marine, always a Marine. He volunteered a lot of time to the community in Tucson, where I grew up. If there is one thing that is embedded in my DNA, it is the dedication and commitment to see things through, even when it means a lot of rejection and a very long path to follow. It has served me well, given that I have chosen a path as a creative and an artist. I have passed on this same resolve to my daughter and granddaughter, and I know my father is always laughing when he hears his ancestors have their conversations, which are spirited and lively. I am here today to honor a group of people who are proud to be part of the United States Marine Corps, like my father, his brother, cousins, and close friends who live by the creed of Semper Fidelis, always faithful. The few, the proud, the Marines on this 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps, delivering unwavering commitment to their mission, fellow Marines, and this nation. And now it is my honor to introduce you to our inaugural guests, Marine Corps veterans Stephen H. Springer and George Rizkalla.
Hi, everybody. Happy birthday, any Marines out there. Hoorah.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Stephen. Stephen's company, BRDS, which is Building, Remodeling, Drafting Services, handles building plans, production management, safety, and project management, designing and specializing in all aspects of construction design, project management, safety, and he's also a federal subcontractor. He is the principal consultant at his company. His website is www.mydraftingservice.com. First, Stephen, I wish to thank you for being an Ops for Vet Life member. And I also want to thank you for being the first inaugural guest of Vets Get on the Grid series, which highlights the Ops Vets Life members and their businesses with a videotape conversation that is all about you and what your company is about, as we inform the general public about what vets do to guide other vets once they have left active service to our country and are now continuing to serve both the military and civilian sectors. As you know, this is a unique approach to launching a lasting impact that will make a difference in a child 100 years from now. It's a conversation that tells people who is behind your logo. And with this being said, Stephen, did you know early on what that you wanted to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces? Did someone in your life inspire you?
Yeah, Cynthia, I was inspired. I'm originally from Barbados, a little island in the Caribbean. And when I was very young and I went to like the independence parades and so on, I saw some uniforms, I saw some people there, and it kind of intrigued me. And I wanted to know more. So I did a lot of research. I would go to like the library. We didn't have internet back then, but we would I would look in the library and look at all the military photos, and on the news I would see, troops in different places, things were happening around the world, and that really intrigued me to really get into it, to know more. And then, which ended up for me joining the it's like the Barbados Cadet Corps, which is kind of equivalent to like the junior ROTC in high schools. I did that at the age of about 13 or so forth, and then after that, I went into the local military there. So I always did research, always wanted to know more, and always dreamt, sitting on the beaches, looking at the sunsets on the horizon, just wondering what it'd be like to be, a part of something bigger than where I am.
Who inspires you to go into the military?
Um, I guess it was more of the adventure. There were kind of like local, talking to people who were in the military and so forth there. My dad, he's a pastor, passed away 2013, but he was all about saving the souls, and that was all about the other side of the fence. That was more adventurous and so forth. But there were some. We'll get some aircraft carriers. We have some ships that would come and visit the island, and we'll talk to the sailors and on board. We tour the ships. Excuse me, and then we kind of gravitated to the U.S. Embassy. So there were some MSG guys there, Marine Security Guard, and we'll go up in the embassy. And I know it's kind of not permitted now, but back then we would go behind the bulletproof glass and with all the gas masks and shotguns and so forth, and seeing all the Marines just buzzing people in. And then on weekends, on Sundays, we would go to an area and play softball. So I was on the U.S. team, and then we would play against the Canadian High Commission, which is like the Canadian Embassy. We always get our butts kicked, but it was a lot of fun. And and then afterwards, we'll go to diplomats' houses and we'll have the barbecues and so on, and just seeing the camaraderie and so on with everybody there. It was just amazing. I mean, we ended up, me and my buddy from high school, we would shave our heads just like the Marines. People thought we were actually Marines, and they're checking in the way how we would talk to them on the phone, and they thought that we were actually Marines. So we would read the books that they had there. I saw my very first MCI, the correspondence courses that they had. So I was flipping through that and saw their green monsters and different things that they had there, and I just absorbed all of that, and they really inspired me. Fitness, everything that they had going on.
Wow. Okay. Well, reading some of your biography, I noticed that you have an interesting blend of influence in your life that led you to join the Marine Corps, like you just told us. Give us an idea of one of your more engaging projects as a builder and a developer while you were in the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay. So I guess one of the major ones was I was sent to Korea pretty much as an advanced team. They said I was only going to be there for 2 weeks. I ended up being there for 8 months, and it was on a Marine expeditionary camp that they had there. Excuse me, which is the spearhead to where all the troops would come into Korea if anything would happen. So that would be their drop off point, and then they will go different places. And I was responsible for uh, the water system on the whole tank, and always trying to make things better to accommodate everybody there, the troops coming in. And water is one of the main things that you need once you get on site. If you don't have water, they can't train, they can't sustain people, and so forth. And we're responsible for. We work closely with the CBs, but there were two wells about 500 feet deep. Generator, we have to flip the pumps on and off, so as to give it uh, the next um, resource for it to build back up the water in one section. So we had to go over to the other ones, and then chlorinize the tank and take care of all the plumbing on base. So it's quite a big feat. And I was actually tasked with how can we make it better, and I kind of doubled the size of the tank without actually having them to physically build another steel tank. So we used these flexible tanks,
Mhm.
bladders, which we had to run over, and we were able to tap into the run over, cap the run over, tap into that, and then filled up these extra tanks where trucks would come in and get from there. So we actually increased the water storage.
Wow, that's quite a project. What are your intentions for the future? of your company, which is building and remodeling drafting services?
So what we're trying to do is to expand, and everything's changing in the industry. A lot of things are changing. You have a lot of AI, and you have everything going on from drones and so on, and different scanning techniques. But pretty much bring us on par where we can at least run with the big dogs, as it were, because we're a small business, and being able to get to a point where we can kind of have a good foothold in federal contracts and more commercial type projects. We would still do residentials, but we want to do bigger projects and so forth. So we were listed on SAM.gov, as well as with the state websites and so forth. And we want to have a bigger reach across different states.
Well, I noticed that on your branding, on your site, you reflect your background as a Marine, quality, service, reliability, and adaptability. And you want to do this for buildings and for people as well. Briefly tell us how you would like to accomplish that.
Okay, so the in the Marine Corps, they always told us to be flexible. We have to be ready for any kind of thing. We're force and readiness, and that's kind of what I want to bring into to this business and other businesses that I plan to start. Just being flexible, not too rigid, and that way you can stay abreast of whatever is happening. All the changes are going on, and you can be able to accommodate to help more people. I'm always trying to help others. I've done that when I worked for the state of California, where I was helping veterans get jobs. I mean, they made some pretty good money during the about 10 years since I was working with the state, and was getting pretty good at that. Where people from different offices were just reaching out to me and sending me their people, and I love helping people. Watching the change and development in that. I like to see that also in businesses. It's pretty much like having a kid, and then you're raising that child up to face whatever is coming down in the future.
Well, thank you very much. We need more people like this. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I would like to know what your personal message for your descendants 100 years from now is.
My dad always would say, "Be humble, stay humble," and a lot of people kind of take advantage of that. But the only thing is, if you have that baseline, having God in your life, and then being humble and being flexible, and having options, having that plan B of options, you want to make sure that you can, you won't be influenced by what's out there. You're always in control. You'll always have your freedom, and you can always reach out to make somebody else or make something better. So it's all about growth, personal growth. Make sure you're always trying to make yourself better, sharpen the saw, and then help somebody else along the way. You can't help others until you actually help yourself. So that's the main thing. But stay flexible and learn as much as you can. Absorb, learn from your mistakes, learn from the mistakes of other people. Have the courage. Don't be afraid to do anything. Take that first step. Just keep moving.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Do you have any other messages for our audience that you'd like to share with us?
Excuse me?
Do you have any other message that you'd like to share with the audience before you leave?
Yeah, I'm in the process of starting other businesses as well. One of them is working with dogs. I have Belgian Malinois, which he's my service dog, so I've been working with him, Reagan, and basically he's incredible. Learned a lot, and just started that business as well, and among some other ones that's coming up. So I want to kind of keep that one a secret till later on for now, but working with dogs and then helping other people with getting service dogs or having the right temperaments for dogs, so that they'll be able to be live with us a lot better. A lot of people don't do the right things or get the wrong dogs, and they find themselves in a lot of trouble. But yeah.
How long have you been working with dogs?
Ooh, I've been work. Well, I grew up with dogs. I mean, all my life and so forth. But I've been working probably for the last 2, 3 years working with dogs.
Okay. Is there any other breed that you prefer to work with other than your Malinois?
I love Malinois. I could work with any breed basically. Malinois are really awesome to work with. But it all depends on what the scope, what your end result is. And you can't just, if somebody has mobility issues, you won't give them a Chihuahua. It just won't make sense. So you want to make sure you have the right breed for whatever you're going to use it for.
So when you're working with people getting their dogs, you definitely consult them on their personality, the dog's personality, and their surroundings and everything else like that.
Correct. I take all that into consideration to make sure it's realistic and also their lifestyles. So some
Oh.
people may have more time to put in, and some people have less time to put in with that. But we just have to be realistic and then work around to find a way that will make the dog grow as well as it's more of a team. It's building a team. So that's what you're working with.
And do you work with just the owner or do you work with the whole family and get everybody on the same page? Because I know a lot of times trainers will only work with one person and not with the whole family.
Correct. You work with the whole family, but it starts with a trainer. So we kind of like go in with the concept of train the trainers. So once that person, it's like being a handler. If I'm teaching somebody to drive a car, I don't take the car away, drive it, and then on the day of the exam, give them the car and say, "Okay, go or take your test." So you work with that person, and you get them into knowing everything about how to because essentially you're an operator, so you're operating that canine, and you're so now you can do that. You can pass that on to people around you because people will come and ask questions. People will try to challenge you and so forth. But you have to be educated enough to know how to handle those situations.
Wow. Well, we need more people like you out there. Training.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we know how to treat our animals properly because people like to train their own animals and it sometimes backfires. I can
Exactly.
attest to that. Stephen, I want to thank you very much for being the inaugural guest, and we'll hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Coming up shortly, we will have George Rizkalla with us. Thank you. Good morning, George.
Good morning.
Folks, this is George Rizkalla, a former U.S. Marine military police officer. George's company is responsible for ground support and field operations as well as law enforcement. He is the founder of IntelliChoice One Arms Defense, which is www.intellichoice1.com/. IntelliChoice One is a veteran-owned and operated company whose goal is to curate long-term relationships and develop win-win opportunities for its public and private sector clients. As a federal firearms licensed dealer, George's company values their end users and works with top manufacturers and distributors with their specialized equipment and pricing. His company has law enforcement equipment and tactical gear for first responders, law enforcement, and military veterans. IntelliChoice One's veteran certification allows the company unique opportunities to win government contracts. In addition, seminars and courses like Refuse to be a Victim, Home Firearm Safety, and Project Child Safe are offered, teaching safety and skill first. First, George, I wish to thank you for being an Ops for Vets Life member, and I also want to thank you for being an inaugural guest on Vets Get on the Grid, which is highlighting veterans and their businesses. And it's, as you know, a videotape conversation telling us who you are and what your company is about as we inform the general public about what vets do to help other vets once they have left active service to our country and are now in civilian life, continuing to serve civilian and military sectors. As you know, this is a unique approach to launching a lasting impact that is intended to reach into the future, exactly 100 years from now. This is a conversation that tells people who is behind your logo. George, tell me, IntelliChoice One Arms and Defense is the result of your passion from weapons handling classes you took and your success now and in the future, building on what you have achieved with Ops for Vets as a life member. My first question for you, being the youngest of 7 with older parents made you contemplate life circumstances early in life because your father had been in the military himself and also stressed and demonstrated self-sufficiency. You chose to do the same by following in his footsteps to develop those traits that you admired. Is this what prompted you to join a reserve program?
Well, good morning, and I'm honored. Um, I really wanted to cut the umbilical cord and become self-reliant. My parents had me in their mid-40s, and they were aging, and so I was really attracted to those intangible skills: the honor, the courage, the commitment. I had hung this poster of a U.S. Marine. It's a very iconic poster from the '90s, and I hung it up on my bedroom wall. And I just started to develop this vision where I wanted to develop the leadership, the courage, the discipline, and I wanted that camaraderie and teamwork. And joining the Marines was my avenue to help better myself and be more self-reliant.
Okay. Tell me, I noticed in your bio that you said you weren't the most athletic individual, but you decided to enlist in the Marine Corps. What drove you to finish boot camp and decide to stick with being a Marine?
It was really the determination and the grit. I remember one of the first, it may have been the first week, we were doing, we were in formation, and that thought came through my mind of, am I going to be able to do this? And I immediately squelched that thought and said, no, I'm going to do this. Failure was not an option. And from that point forward, everything went smooth. As you know, as you mentioned, I was not the most athletically fit. Didn't really play a lot of sports in high school. My run time before joining the Marines was not impressive. But the one thing was just the tenacity and just wanting to get better. And my time from before going to boot camp to my first week in boot camp versus when I graduated, it was continuous improvement. And even later when I went to military police school, I kept bettering my time. And so it was really, I just figured out it was really the work I put in and overcoming those mental challenges. Now I listen to David Goggins a lot, and he uses this term of callousing the mind. And without having read his book at that time, I just, whenever those negative thoughts came in, I just would put it to bay and just drive on. And it got me through what I needed to get through, and I ended up developing more confidence and courage as a result.
The other thing I noticed that you have is you have a very strong financial career and background as well, which is further solidifying your childhood goal of self-sufficiency. What made you decide to go into the financial world? I know you mentioned Tony Robbins and his comment about vision. Could you tell us about that?
Sure, I had attended a seminar, and he said this quote. It's a biblical quote. Without a vision, the people will perish. And I believe it's from King Solomon. And I really just wanted to continue this vision for myself, for bettering myself. And the opportunity presented itself. At the time, the average, starting salary at the time, I want to say was like 24,000. And this was a career that did not have a salary, and it was definitely challenging, but it offered an unlimited growth potential. It was uncapped. And I said, I would rather have that and be able to, to make it or fail. But I wanted to take that opportunity. And I actually ended up having a great career. in that I did much better than what the average salary was. It was definitely a lot of work. It was not a traditional 9 to 5 job. It was more of being in the office and training from 8 to 4, and then going out and seeing clients, mom and pop business owners, kitchen tables, till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I just kept putting in the grind, and I had a very prosperous career. I ended up going into leadership and management, and got involved with recruitment, selection, training, and development. I always wanted to build my own business. I just didn't really know how. And so what that opportunity provided me was to almost have my own business. I ran my own units. I kind of did an anomaly. I ran a lot of multicultural units that specialize in these different markets of their ethnic backgrounds, which was kind of an untraditional way to approach it. But it was very successful. I worked with several different companies, and I really developed the leadership that what the Marine Corps had taught me. I kind of transitioned that into the business world, and I was able to apply those leadership management skills and have a successful career. I eventually, because of my military injuries, I had to make a decision I went on short-term disability in 2017. I needed to have a surgery back in 2007, and I just put it off. And at the time that I had asked the doctor, I'm not sure if I should do the surgery. Essentially, I was scared. And he said, trust me, you will know. And I did not know what that meant until 2017. The pain was just too much. I had pain going down my arms, pain going down my legs, radicular pain, sciatic pain. And so I went on short-term disability for a little bit in 2017. And in 2019, I just medically retired. I said I couldn't do this anymore. And so I took some time off. I eventually was just trying to figure out my next steps. And I got into a program at Pepperdine. I ended up completing my master's in business. Still wasn't sure how to transition that into my own business, but I just took some time off. Had 7 surgeries in a 1.5 year period, and just took the time to recover. And I thought that was it for me at the time.
And I wanted to know why you became an instructor and how this led to IntelliChoice One and where your company is now and in the future.
Well, I had these surgeries, and essentially in the beginning, it was a lot of doctor appointments. It was almost like being a professional patient. And after I had these surgeries and recovering, I plugged into the veteran community. And one, it gave me a sense of camaraderie. But more importantly, I also developed, or equally as important, I learned the resources and the benefits available to veterans, especially disabled veterans. And so I started to plug into that. I started to take classes and training, and I was applying for a concealed carry permit at the time. And I took a firearms class, and I was not as proficient as I was in the military. Passed the class, got the certificate, but I wanted to do better. And so I wanted that level of proficiency I had in the military. And so I just continued taking classes. And eventually the instructor opportunity presented itself. And I didn't want, at the time, I did not have an interest in teaching. But after I became instructor certified, the mentor instructor would run these classes, and he asked me, hey, I have extra students. You mind coming out for range safety? And I started coming out regularly with him 2-3 times a week for several months. And this was an opportunity. I was not getting paid, but at the time I was doing something and learning and growing. And so I kind of invested the time in that. And, one day at a class, the idea just dropped on me like a bomb. I said, I can do this. And so had a lot of students in those classes. They'd ask, what bag, what sight should I buy, or what do you recommend? And so after starting to make these recommendations, I just said, hey, I can do this. And so just step by step, I started to explore how to do it, and I'm in a highly regulated business, and so just put in for one license after the other. Department of Justice, ATF, California Department of Justice, the Beverly Hills Police Department regulatory permits, the state permits, the city permits, and just one step after the other. And so once I got up, it came to a point where I needed to rent office space. And so I really didn't have the finances for it, but I literally prayed for closet space, and I needed a physical location. And I got blessed with with a small place. It was a starting point. And so I kind of broke the traditional model of people coming into a counter, because having gone through that several times, the traditional model was people would come in, the person at the counter expected them to know what they want, and it was really just one person after another, and it was really, they pressured people very fast because they had another person waiting. And so I decided to specialize in education and training. And so, figuring out what the right equipment or tactical gear is for that person. A lot of people are interested in defense, but not necessarily wanting to own a gun. And so there were other options that are non-lethal. And so I started to have more conversational one-on-one, and it really just broke that traditional model into more of a consulting model, and working with private clients. And so, and the other thing was, because of having the military and the law enforcement background, as well as the connections, I specialized my marketplace. I wanted to specialize in law enforcement, military, and essentially women who were interested in self-defense. And so
is that where your programs came in?
Or that's how
okay.
I didn't have the vision all at once. It was really just one step at a time, just navigating and figuring it out. And as a result of being connected, in the veteran community and learning about the benefits and the resources, I met Albert through Southwest Veterans Resource Center. And again, like I said, it was one step after the other. I learned about the certifications, the designations, and the set aside programs. And so I got certified as a service disabled veteran owned business.
And
then also, a disabled veteran business enterprise. And so that allowed me to get specialized set aside contracts, or getting preference with bidding for these, whether it was federal, state, or local. And so I really dialed in with LA County Sheriff's Department, and now being a local small business enterprise, or having that designation, I get preference, sometimes a 15% preference, for that set aside.
So since you have brought all of this together into this wonderful company here, I want to have you give us your 2-minute personal message to your descendants 100 years from now.
The bottom line is to go after our dreams. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And so it's really just taking that first step and having the determination, the grit, the tenacity, and getting rid of that self-doubt. The grace and the blessings are going to come as a result of us putting our own effort. And, I'll end with this quote: with God, all things are possible.
George, thank you very much. And you're right. With God, all things are possible.
Thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate it. And it's an honor, especially, it's an honor to be selected to give my my background, as well as it being the 250th Marine Corps birthday.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, George, thank you very much for joining our inaugural message about veterans and the continuing service to military and civilian life. You are both great examples of ops to vets by providing and sharing seeds of encouragement to be the best you can be to those who are being nurtured and harvested now and in the future for humanity's success now and globally 100 years from now. I also want to give a quick shout out to Stephen's daughter. It's her birthday as well today, along with the Marine Corps. I welcome Ops for Vets Life members to be my guests. We are making a difference in a child 100 years from now by sending them a message on my show, Get on the Grid. If you have an interest in being part of Ops for Vets and sharing your inspiration and information, visit www.opsforvets.com/about, where we can provide consultation and support services for entrepreneurial and employment opportunities. We look forward to seeing you at the next show for Ops for Vets. And I want to wish once more happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps on its 250th birthday. Thank you for your service, one and all Marines, past, present, and future. Thank you.
You see him? He's just as dead as we are. Now you listen to me, youngster. Someday you're gonna wake up fighting on a beachhead. You pray to God some guy doesn't get killed because of your foolishness. You join the Marine Corps, Owens. We don't deal in pity and sympathy.
I try.
Try? We don't try in this Marine Corps. We either do or we don't. We don't straddle any fences. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Every time you make one of these little mistakes of yours, you're gonna turn around and I'll be standing right there.
Needing money or anything, you know. Man, I got over like a fat rat when I got out, man. I got my school money coming from the government once a month. I got my veterans check coming once a month. I got my 50% medical check coming to me for the rest of my life.